Ugh, okay. This is a terrible stack. Terrible, terrible stack. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Jayla, and today I'm going to be spilling all the hot goss about the books I read in October. So I read 8 books in October, and it was a really, really good reading month. I enjoyed almost everything I read, so we'll get into all that. Let's just get started. The first thing I read in October was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which is a very popular book on BookTube and just in the world, so I don't really need to go into too much, but it's about this girl named Alex Stern who gets this opportunity to go to Yale and kind of supervise their secret societies when she survives this terrible multiple homicide, and there's this whole big mystery around it. She just ends up in the hospital after that, and some guy offers her this opportunity, and she's like, yeah, sure, I'll go to Yale, whatever. Spookiness ensues. It's not really a horror novel necessarily, but there's definitely some gore in here. There's ghosts and like the occult, stuff like that. It was a really good October read, and I enjoyed this thoroughly. I gave it 5 stars. Hi, say hi to my Band-Aid. Hey y'all. I loved the main character, Alex. She was so fun to follow around. She's snarky, kind of cold towards other people. She's very funny, and she's just been through a lot, so she's got a lot of perspective, and she's looking at this this setting from a place of not privilege. And she really tells the story from a place outside of the privilege that so many people at the school hold. So it's a really interesting perspective to view things from. I think all the characters in the story were great. They were all so fun to learn more about. And there was just a lot of great dialogue in this book because I loved when these characters talk to each other. I also love the magic building in this world. It's like contemporary fantasy, I guess. I thought it would be a little hard to understand, especially after the first chapter, after the prologue where she's explaining how they're doing some sort of surgery that has something to do with magic. I was like, I don't know what's going on. But you really start to get more into it and start to understand everything more as you go on. And I think she did a really great job of putting this really freaky scenario into this real world premise. I did think this book was kind of long towards the end. There's 50 pages at the end of the book where I'm just like, all right, we could have been there already. It was all important information that we got, but we could have gotten it way sooner. And so I was like, we should just wrap this up because we're really doing the most here. But I really, really enjoyed this, and I am freaking out because there is no title for the sequel. There's no publishing date for the sequel. It's just a gray blob on Goodreads, and I really don't like gray blobs. I need to know how it's been. When did this come out? 2018, right? 2019? It was 2018, right? If this doesn't come out by next year Halloween, I'm going to be very upset. There may be some rioting. My next October read was Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth, and I gave this one 2.5 out of 5 stars, or 3 stars depending on how I want to look at it, because it very much disappointed me. But I also think that the writing and the story itself were pretty entertaining. It just wasn't what it should have been. Even though I don't really get to say that because I'm not the author. This story is built around this one main idea that there is a book written by this woman named Mary MacLane. Mary MacLane was this kind of radical woman who loved other women romantically. She kind of, she disregarded the normal social norms of the time for women. She was very outspoken and just wasn't what ladies at the time should be. And she wrote an autobiography or a memoir that kind of inspired young women all throughout the United States to kind of just be a little more reckless and carefree. I mean, it was more than that. It was inspiring them, letting them know that they don't have to be submissive and they don't have to be beautiful. It's okay to love women. It's okay to not want the only thing in life for you to be marriage, things like that. So in real life, this book had that kind of reaction and caused a lot of girls to woo! I don't know what that means, but just imagine it means taking on the patriarchy or something like that. So in this book, it follows this school that in Rhode Island that was basically some sort of book club was formed around this book and it was a boarding school for girls. 2 tragic deaths happened to 2 of the girls in the club, and then another death, and it just follows this chain of deaths that happen at this school. But the story isn't really about that. It's about the 2 people who run the school, and that all takes place in the 1900s, the early 1900s, and then there's another timeline that takes place in 2020, in which there's 3 heroines who are filming a movie based off of the story of Brooke Haunt, which is the name of the boarding school. And that is where my problem comes in, because this book is long. It's 620 pages long, and it really takes a long time to get to what really interested me about the story in the first place. So, like, I'm at page 350 and they still haven't started filming this movie, and while everything that was happening before that was somewhat interesting and I was definitely like, oh, this is, whoa, what's gonna happen next? It was also like, okay, but we're on page 350, why haven't we gotten here already? I also feel like I just focused on the wrong thing. You have this very interesting premise about this secret society of girls who, first of all, they're lesbians, and second of all, they're doing weird stuff because of this book. I mean, supposedly they're doing weird stuff. You could also just consider the lesbian stuff weird stuff, but like, I'm hoping that wasn't all that was the case with that. I just feel like that could have been a way more interesting story to tell. We do, as I said before, we do follow the two women who run the school, and it was a really interesting storyline at some points. It was kind of slow, or very slow at other points, and it just overall it didn't reach that spook factor that it could have reached if we had just followed that weird little club of girls. All that being said, the stories they were telling were pretty entertaining as well. The 20th century one had very much yellow wallpaper vibes, which is one of my favorite short stories, so it has this kind of creeping, slowly getting spookier vibe to it, I guess. And then the 21st century one also starts to go in that direction with one of the characters, but that was my other problem, is that they didn't commit to it. Like, I'm not gonna spoil anything, so I won't say much, but there's a character who's starting to become really affected by everything, and then it just like goes away, and I was just like, what was the point? What was the point of putting me through this? 620 pages, so much build up, so much backstory, all for it to culminate in absolutely nothing, is how I feel about this book. I did enjoy the ride for the most part, but I was so let down by the ending that I had to give this 2.5 stars. But all that being said, the writing was really, really good. It was witty and easy to follow, and there are even footnotes on some of the pages, so it like adds in some extra humor and stuff there. But it also is like, okay, but this is 620 pages long, like, we don't have time to go read extra stuff. So anyway, I have very mixed feelings about the book. Other than that, I'll say I really enjoyed how gay this book was. Like, my woman loving women, you're gonna love this. And I also thought that there were some pretty spooky moments that involved a lot of yellow jackets, and so yeah, it definitely had in those gothic horror elements that kind of make you uncomfortable, so that was really cool as well. Okay, so sorry if the angle changed and the lighting changed. My phone overheated, and apparently the last 10 minutes that I had been talking were just not recorded, so we have to start again, which is fine. I love that for me. So we got off while I was talking about Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. I read this after the other two, and it was a very, very big tone shift. So this is about two friends who are spending their last night together working at a pumpkin patch, and they've been pumpkin patch best friends for like 3 years, and they're pretty much just like so sad because they feel like they're never going to see each other again. So they're just trying to make the most of this last night while they still can. And so best friend Deja decides that she wants to help her friend Josiah finally talk to the girl that he's been crushing on for 3 years. And so it becomes this entire chase just to find that one girl and tell her how he feels. And I love Deja so much. I wish I had a best friend like Deja to help me go for my dreams, because she was amazing. She was so funny. She's got so much history behind her. And like, I want to hear a whole story about Deja's time working at the pumpkin patch. But this book was really fun, really cute, very funny, and it was just a great October/Halloween read that really puts you in the right mood. So after those 3 books, I just stopped reading for a bit, and I realized on October 30th that I should do a readathon so that I could get as much reading done as I could before October was over. So in that time, I read 5 books, which you can go see me talk about in this reading vlog video that I filmed and uploaded. So there's that. The first book I read for the 24-hour readathon was Gaio by Junji Ito. This was my first Junji Ito read and my first manga. Unfortunately, I was not very happy with this. I gave it 2.5 stars. It was definitely weird. It was definitely gory, lots of body horror, and it was super graphic, and it had its moments of like, ew, like, stop. However, I really did not enjoy the plot of this book. For one thing, it follows this couple, and the female protagonist is super annoying, super needy. She calls her boyfriend inconsiderate all the time, and she's very whiny, like, oh, you need to go do this, how could you leave me over here by myself, kill it, go, you save me. And I was like, I really don't like that at all. She's super weak and just very bossy, and I just did not like it. And literally this entire book, this man is like just saving his girlfriend and just doing all this stuff for his girlfriend. Like, there's a certain point where I was like, oh, okay, this girl is dead to me. Like, I would not be doing all this for her. But no, he was very committed to this relationship, so good for him. I also felt like there was some very convenient plot points in here that just made it a little unrealistic. I mean, as far as walking fish can be unrealistic, but even more so than that. And then I also thought it was just so much longer than it needed to be, and it just kept going after it could have just stopped. It was definitely beautifully illustrated, but yeah, the story was just not that strong for me. The next thing I read for the readathon was Ring Shout by Peter Jelly Clark, and this was a 4-star read for me. I really enjoyed this. This is a speculative fiction short story or like novella, and by the way, I didn't know what speculative fiction was until I was doing some research on this, and so now I know that I really like speculative fiction. This is a story that takes place in 1922, and it is about this group of women who are hunting down Ku Kluxes, which are demons that hide within the KKK and kind of feed off of their hatred. I really love the characters in this book. Maris, our main character, is such a badass, and she's so complex too. She has a lot of baggage that she's carrying with her, but she's also a very light character, very funny, and she's really relatable as well because she's really into stories and reading, and so definitely a lot of relatability with her. And then her friends who are also helping her hunt the KKK demons are really funny and just they bring a lot of heart to the story as well, and I didn't expect to get so attached to them, but I really did. There was also some really great character development in this book on Maris's part, because she really has to go through a lot to get to the end, and it's a lot about like overcoming her emotional struggles and obstacles. So I thought that was just so well done, and this just idea is so imaginative, like Clark's mind, just amazing. I also just really appreciated the complete disrespect of the KKK. Like, obviously that's what we expected to happen, but they flat out are just like, the KKK is really dumb. Like, these white people have no reason to be scared, and yet they're so afraid that they have this whole entire little cult that they have just for this purpose. And it's pretty pathetic, and I just loved the framing and the messaging, and yeah, so good. I felt like it was kind of slow at some parts, which is why I knocked it a star, but I also feel like that might have something to do with me doing it for a 24-hour readathon, because I know that my brain tends to get like mushy and stops absorbing information and stuff after some time reading too much, and so I feel like maybe that wasn't me really feeling like it was slow, but maybe I was just like brain dead and just tired, and so there were things that felt like they dragged on, but it was actually just me. So I still think it was overall a really wonderful story, and maybe in different conditions I would have loved it even more. Then I read The Haunting of Tram Car 15, which is also by Peter Jelly Clark, and this one is a fun little like buddy cop story, and so it's about these two detectives who are trying to solve the case of a haunted tram car, and it takes place in like this, I want to say it's like I don't even know. It's another speculative fiction novel. So it's like 20th century Cairo, and they have some more like futuristic aspects like robots and stuff like that. But anyway, they also have magic. So they believe in these mythical creatures and things like that because they have proven themselves to exist. And there's this whole department. It's like the Ministry of Magic. It's the Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities. And so these two detectives work for that little ministry, and they're trying to solve this case. It's a real fun story with lovable characters. I just want to praise Clark because he really is so good at writing immersive world in such a short period of time. I really love his world building, the characters, and just overall his talent for writing is phenomenal. Okay, we have two more. Can My Phone Survive? Next, I read Monstress, and this is one of my favorite graphic novel series that I've been reading. This is Vol.5, War Child, and I did not feel comfortable really reading this one because I was pretty confused while reading it. I definitely have to go back and reread the other ones because it's been a hot minute. But yeah, I just know that I feel like the issue I might have is just that it's always war all the time. This is what this series is kind of building up to. It's like these two different sides. So basically you have humans on one side, and then you have these people who are hybrids, so they're kind of animal, kind of human. So the hybrid people are demonized, and like the humans are always trying to kill them and stuff, so there's this war going on. And it's so much bigger than that, but there's so much going on in these stories that I couldn't even begin to describe it to you. But I'm hoping after rereading everything, I can have a more comprehensive understanding of what's going on. And finally, I have I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, and this I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. This is a weird book. I think we all know that to be the case, and everyone's heard that it's weird. And it's definitely confusing towards the end, but I really enjoyed it overall. It was such amazing dialogue in it, following our main character, whose name I have completely forgotten, She has such interesting stories to tell, and it all builds in a really, really interesting way. I listened to the audiobook and I was concerned that I wasn't going to get the same experience of like spookiness, but honestly the audiobook does it better. They do this really cool thing towards the end that I won't share, but I was just like, whoa, like if I had just read that instead of listening to it, I would not have gotten the same effect. It was so cool. This was absolutely a really weird book, but I honestly expected it to be a little bit weirder, so I was kind of disappointed. That's why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5. And I think the explanation for everything towards the end is kind of like, it's like, what? But it's understandable. So everything kind of does come together in the end, and I just really enjoyed the ride and the journey it took me on. So that is everything that I read in October. Let me know if you had a very successful reading month as well. If you have any recommendations based off of things that maybe you've read from this pile, I'd be happy to hear them, especially speculative fiction, since I now know that I really like that. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on Bookstagram at LalaLovesLit, or you can be my friend on Goodreads. Links are in the description, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great night.